Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
How do you review a game like Far From Noise? A game that takes place in one area for its entirety and can be played with only one hand and 3 buttons. Mostly 2 if I'm honest. A game that justifies the existence of the phrase games as art. Well, I guess I should start by explaining it. Far From Noise is a dialogue and narrative-driven tale of a woman whose car engine fails close to a cliff's edge and leaves her dangling half off like a set piece from an Uncharted game. It's a game that cannot be reviewed traditionally because nothing about it is traditional. You only control one thing in this game: what you say next. So because of this, I find it extremely difficult to really talk about it like a game at all. I can't tell you that the gameplay is superb because there really isn't any gameplay. I think of it a lot more like an interactive movie, so maybe I should review it as such. The basic plotline is this. After your car's engine fails close to an oceanside cliff's edge, you are left rocking back and forth on the verge of spilling over into the unbridled depths below. Initially, you are completely alone, just kind of selecting your words as if you were this poor woman caught between a rock and, well, the sea. There are many dramatic pauses, small considerations, and meditative moments before finally something in the scene changes. A stag walks slowly up near the car and stares off the cliff's edge with you. Naturally, you're scared that it's going to ram you or mess with something on the car or push you to your watery grave. It even comes right up to the window at one point, and resigned to your fate, you start joking with it. And of course, it's all fun and games, until it replies. After the startling discovery that your mind might have melted under extreme duress, you try to mentally wrestle with the situation at hand by simply conversing with your new friend. One of the great strengths of Far From Noise is the fantastic dialogue. Words are skillfully crafted into smart and charming sentences. Highbrow humor mixes with lowbrow. The vocabulary of the game's writer is very impressive. More so is the tone that the dialogue sets during the course of your playthrough. It's like curling up with a good book next to a warm fire, enchanting in places, wistful in others. The important thing about Far From Noise is not how you play it, it's how you feel when playing it. It's put together in such a way that it kind of forces you to project a little bit of yourself into the protagonist and her dilemma. You often find yourself wondering what you would do, given the situation at hand. What would you say in her predicament? Shamefully, until she mentions it during the dialogue, I had assumed it was a man in the car, which is either me already projecting self-image into the game from the very start given no glimpse of the character, or decades of being brainwashed into assuming most games will have a male protagonist. It's a twist made more interesting by the fact that now, not only am I mirroring my own ideals and words to the in-game character, I'm also taking into account that she's female, and in my head I was trying to imagine what kind of lady I wanted her to be. If I'm perfectly honest, it ended up being some kind of a cross between Tina Fey and Amy Poehler in my head. Having a visualization helped me with the dialogue choices. I'd like to think I was pretty entertaining to our dear friend most of the time. At its heart, this is a game not about potential death, but potential life. It's a game about missed choices and regretful decisions, feeling lost in this vast plane of existence we call our lives. Many of the option choices and anecdotes in-game actually mirrored some of my own real-life choices. I too went to university, then decided within 15 minutes it wasn't for me and went home. I too wanted to be a marine biologist. Frankly, it got a little scary at some points with how on the nose it was in comparison to my own life. Then I remembered largely that I made those choices. Marine biologist was one box in a choice of many, so now I was forcing the game to project itself onto me. Far From Noise is a short experience. In fact, in simply trying to get an hour or so of raw footage for this review, I finished the game. 1 hour and 20 minutes to be precise. About as long as a short indie movie. Gracefully, it's also a cheap experience, clocking in at a whopping $8. I never felt like it wasn't worth the money. I knew exactly what I signed up for. By the time the credits started to roll, something significant had changed in my mood. At the time I started the game, I was knee-deep in a hectic workload pile for the show. Having spent the previous 5 or so hours recording other footage, I was feeling very tired and worn down. Not to mention that I struggle on a day-to-day basis with depression and anxiety, and something about that cliff edge felt eerily familiar. As my stag friend started to talk through the immeasurable beauty of life with me, I felt something stir in my own soul. It felt like someone knew how I was feeling somehow. Through my own projected thoughts and feelings turned into dialogue. On some weird level, the game understood me. It held my hand on the edge of the cliff and said, "Focus on the horizon, not on the jagged rocks below." I actually felt better about my own life after completion of this game. How fucking crazy is that? Obviously, the game is beautiful graphically, narratively, and otherwise, but perhaps the most beautiful thing this game does is force you to self-reflect. I wish they would put a digital download copy in every bottle of citalopram or Xanax that reaches a person that is low in their life and remind them to play it every time they feel like this life isn't enough. The world would be a better place for it.
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.